I wanted to create a little enchanted forest diorama for my dolls using mostly simple materials and a little bit of improvising. Here's how I put everything together. For the base, I started with this faux moss mat. I'll put a link to something similar on Amazon, but honestly, any moss mat that gives you this kind of texture should work. For the background, I actually used a forest-themed tablecloth. It was an inexpensive way to get that full forest look without having to build or paint a backdrop. I didn't realize until I started setting everything up that my moss mat was a little too small for this space, so I added some plain artificial grass mats along the sides just to extend. And don't worry if you can see the seams because we're going to cover most of that anyway. For this part, I actually made a little mistake. Thought I was buying artificial loose moss, but this turned out to be real dried moss, the kind people normally use for plant arrangements. It was definitely a little messier than I expected, but I really didn't want to go through the hassle of returning it, so we're making it work. I basically scattered it around the whole diorama, especially where the moss mat and the grass mat meet. Next is probably one of my favorite little improvisations. I wanted a wooden bridge for the diorama, but I couldn't find a 1/6 scale bridge where I live, so instead I found this flexible wooden hamster bridge. So it's technically made for small pets, but because it bends, I was able to shape it into this little arced bridge, and honestly I think it works surprisingly well. After that, I added these faux grass covered rocks. They're really lightweight, so at this point I'm just placing them around and seeing where everything looks best. Nothing is really permanent yet, so I can still move things around later. Then of course I needed some cute little forest details, so I added these miniature mushrooms and 2 tiny bunnies. I also wanted to give the diorama a little more height because everything was starting to sit at the same level, so I used some real pieces of bark and rearranged them upright to create these miniature 3-leg structures. I feel like adding different heights makes the whole scene a lot more dimensional, but I think you can also buy some fake dollhouse trees, but for this one I didn't really want to spend that much money. Then when it was finally time to add some color, I added these moss with tiny pink flowers throughout. I really love how the pink breaks up all the green and gives it more of that whimsical forest feel. I also added these tiny white flower sprays in different areas for a little more contrast. I honestly wish I had a few more colors to work with, but these were what I had, and I think they still made a big difference. And this is what those little tree areas look like once everything is layered together. For underneath the bridge, I wanted to create the illusion of a little stream, so I used this dollhouse water sheet. It has this rippled surface that looks like water. I just cut a piece to size and place it directly underneath the bridge. And for the final touch, I added some fairy lights throughout the scene. I think the lights really helped bring everything to life and gave it that slightly magical, enchanted forest feeling. That's basically it. Nothing here was really complicated, and a lot of it was honestly just improvising with things I could find. But once everything was layered together, the moss, rocks, flowers, bridge, little animals and lights, and of course my dolls, it completely transformed the space into this miniature forest. And here is the final result.